obedience, that is qunut, which the Prophet ﷺ used to say in his prayers. Upon completing the recitation of this supplication of obedience, the person would say Allahu Akbar and then proceed to prostration. Thereafter sits up for the recitation, that is at tashahhud, and concludes the prayer as usual with the taslim, and thus is the which prayer done. Letter B. Alternatively, the person may perform the which prayer by praying all the 3 rakats continuously without break. After ruku'ah in the 3rd rak'ah, the person would recite the qunut supplication as discussed above and would then proceed to prostration, then recites at-tashahhud and concludes the prayer with the taslim. Now Taraweeh prayer. The Islamic fasting month of Ramadan is a blessed month in which Muslims are generally exhorted to come up with as many optional activities as is possible, for great rewards are awarded for deeds performed during this holy month. It is in appreciation of this that the Prophet ﷺ traditionalized for the Muslim Ummah a voluntary prayer to be performed during the nights of this holy month. This voluntary prayer is known as At-Taraweeh or Al-Qiyam. The virtue of this prayer can be noted from the following saying of the Prophet ﷺ. Anybody who performs Taraweeh prayer during the month of Ramadan with deep sense of belief and security will have his previous sins forgiven. Reported by Al-Imam Al-Bukhari. Indeed, the Prophet ﷺ manifested the importance of this prayer by personally leading its initial congregations, although he did not insist on its performance for fear it was made obligatory on the Ummah. The mother of the faithful, Aisha radiallahu anha, says, many people performed Taraweeh with the Prophet ﷺ in the first night, and many more in the second night. In the third night, even a larger congregation attended the mosque to perform the prayer with the Prophet ﷺ, but he did not go out for them. In the next morning, the Prophet ﷺ told them that, I saw your assembly, but nothing prohibited me from coming out to you, except the fear that it be made obligatory upon you. Reported by Al-Imam At-Tirmidhi. After the death of the Prophet ﷺ, there was no longer any fear of this prayer being made obligatory, and it was Caliph Omar who, during his reign, reactivated the performance of this prayer in congregation. Since then, the Ummah has practiced this prayer in congregation, but it is permissible for someone to perform it on individual basis. Although much preference is given to performing it with the congregation, as can be noted from the following saying of the Prophet ﷺ, whoever prays Taraweeh with the congregation till the Imam leaves will be rewarded as if he prayed the whole night. Reported by Al-Imams Ahmad and At-Tirmidhi. This prayer is performed in rakats, units of 2 each, except the last rak'ah, which is always prayed oddly as 1. It is confirmed that the Prophet ﷺ used to perform 11 rakats when praying at-Taraweeh. Salatul Istikharah, that's prayer of seek Allah's guidance. It's natural that in this day-to-day affairs, a Muslim is confronted with important issues requiring decision-making, and which may force the person to undergo much thinking, anxiety, and even worry before the person is able to decide affirmatively or negatively. It is with due regard to such situations that the Prophet ﷺ accustomed for the Muslim Ummah a voluntary prayer to which a person may resort, and through which he or she seeks from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala true guidance and the ability to reach the proper decision over the particular matter. Now, this prayer is known in Arabic as Salatul Istikharah, and its importance is such that the Prophet ﷺ used to teach his companions about it the same way he used to teach them the verses of the Holy Quran. The companion Jabir, may Allah be pleased with him, said that the Prophet ﷺ used to exhort us to practice istikhara for all our affairs. The manner of performing this prayer is that the person comes up with a voluntary prayer of 2 rakats, that's units, at any time during the day or night, and upon completing the same, the person recites a private supplication in which he or she seeks the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The supplication goes as follows: اللهم إني أستخيرك بعلمك وأستقدرك بقدرتك وأسألك من فضلك العظيم فإنك تقدر ولا أقدر وتعلم ولا أعلم وأنت علام الغيوب اللهم إن كنت تعلم أن هذا الأمر. Here the person makes a mention of the matter for which guidance is sought. خير لي في ديني ومعاشي وعاجل أمري وعاقبة أمري فاقدره لي ويسره لي ثم بارك لي فيه وإن كنت تعلم أن هذا الأمر. Also at this point the person makes a mention of the matter for which guidance is sought. شر لي في ديني ومعاشي وعاقبة أمري فاصرفه عني واصرفني عنه واقدر لي الخير حيث كان ثم ردني به. Which means, O Lord, I seek your guidance through your knowledge and power, and I ask you of your great bounties, for you decree and I do not decree, and you know and I know not. You are the knower of invisible. O Lord, if you know that this matter, and here the person states the matter for which guidance is sought, is of benefit to me in my religion, in my livelihood, and in its outcome, decide it for me and make it easy for me, and then bless it for me. And if you know that this matter, and here he names it again, is bad for me in my religion, in my livelihood, and in its outcome, turn it from me and divert me from it, and decree good for me wherever it may be, and make me pleased with it. Having sought Allah's guidance as above, the person then resumes his or her routine affairs, and in the meantime awaiting the due response from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which could appear to the person by way of feelings in the person's heart, or either confidence or otherwise. Thus, where the person feels in his or her heart a sense of vigor, optimism, and satisfaction about the intended undertaking, then the person may construe this as a positive response from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may accordingly proceed on with the intended undertaking. Where, however, the opposite is true, and the person's doubts and or worries are not cleared, then the person may avoid the intended undertaking, for it could mean doom for him or her. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it is possible that ye dislike a thing which is good for you, and that ye love a thing which is bad for you, but Allah knoweth, and ye know not. That's Quran, Surah number 2, verse 216. Indeed, the essence of this prayer is to test someone's trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hence, the need to abide by the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accordingly, whether this may mean pursuing or abandoning the intended undertaking. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, and if anyone puts his trust in Allah, sufficient is Allah for him, for Allah surely accomplishes His purpose. Verily for all things has Allah appointed a due proportion. That's Quran, Surah 65, verse 3. La ilaha illallah, which means there is no God but Allah. Now, Salatul Janazah, funeral prayer. Islam has set certain rules and regulations with regard to attending a deceased person, and some of these rules are as follows. Number 1, in most cases death is preceded by sickness, and it is the duty of the Muslims who happen to know the sick person to pay him a visit and make supplications to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his recovery. Indeed, a sick Muslim has a right to be visited by other Muslims who are acquainted with him. Number 2, if And when a Muslim is about to die, it is the practice that the person is directed to the Qibla, that is the sacred mosque in Mecca, after which the Shahada, the words of witness, is proclaimed over the person, and he or she is also urged to proclaim the same, thus, La ilaha illallah. This is in due regard to the following saying of the Prophet ﷺ, exhort your dying ones to affirm the Shahada, reported by Imam Muslim. Number 3. Where the person dies, the eyes are to be closed, body covered with garments, and the people around him are required to avoid talking of anything else except that which is good, such as saying, for example, "O Allah, forgive him and have mercy on him." This is in accordance with the following saying of the Prophet ﷺ, do not say over your dead ones except supplications, for the angels say Ameen on your supplications, reported by Imam Muslim. Number 4. In Islam, a Muslim is respected whether alive or dead, and therefore, if a Muslim dies, the religion commands us to give the body total ablution, that's ghusl, and to perform it properly. Number 5. A deceased male Muslim is given a bath only by other male Muslims, although nothing forbids his wife from giving him a bath. Likewise, a deceased Muslim woman is given a bath only by other Muslim women, although nothing forbids a husband from giving a bath to his deceased wife. Number 6. The deceased should be wrapped in a shroud. If the deceased is a woman, she should be wrapped in a shroud composing of 5 pieces of white garments, while a deceased male should be shrouded with 3 pieces of white garments. Number 7. If a woman dies where there are no other women nearby to undertake the ritual bath, or if a man dies in a similar situation where there are no other men nearby, then the deceased person is only given a dry ablution, that is a tayammum, by rubbing the earth over his or her face and hands, because in such cases complete bath is impossible. Proper funeral prayer is then performed over the deceased and thereafter buried accordingly. 8. The funeral prayer is a collective obligation of the residents of the particular area. This is known as fardu kifayah in Arabic, and if no one comes out to perform the prayer on a deceased Muslim of that community, the community as a whole is indeed sinful in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if it is performed by some of the people, then the rest of the community are absolved of the sin. And with Salatul Janazah and a summary of the different types of prayers, we come to the end of this tape after reading the last page of the book and skipping about 4 or 5 pages. A summary of the different types of prayers. We shall now summarize the most common different types of prayer which a Muslim will get exposed to in his day-to-day life. Letter A. The obligatory prayers. Al-Faridah, that is Fajr, Dawn, Dhuhr, Noon, Asr, Afternoon, Maghrib, Sunset, Isha, Evening. The necessary Wajib, Friday, congregational prayer. Other confirmed traditional prayers, thus like the prayers of the 2 feasts, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, seeking bounty of rain, that is Istisqa, prayer of the eclipse, that is Al-Kusuf, the 12 definite voluntary prayers, that's Al-Rawatib of the obligatory prayers, the Witr, which is the odd number prayer, and the Tarawih, which is the month of fasting prayer, the prayer of seeking Allah's guidance, and of course the funeral prayer. With this we come to the end of Kitab al-Salah, the book of prayer, which has been compiled by Nathif or Nathif Jama Adam. This book was read to you by Ahmed Izzat, and this is the last tape 3. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon all of you. Thank you.